I want to welcome you to the 2025 Veterans Day ceremony. This is our 28th formal celebration of Veterans Day here inside the Military Women's Memorial. My name is Phyllis Wilson. I'm a retired Army veteran and the president of the Military Women's Memorial. As I was thinking about it, I've worked here just a little over 6 years, so I was thinking this was my 6th Veterans Day as president, but it isn't. It's my 7th, simply because I had just started working here a month or two before Veterans Day. So I get to enjoy this the 7th time. It's amazing. It's a privilege to have all of you here with us today, and know that tomorrow, according to the weatherman, it's going to be much warmer than it is today. This is the one program in the Washington, D.C. area, and perhaps in the country, that each year not only pays tribute to America's veterans, but specifically to our active duty, our Guard and Reserve servicewomen, and our women veterans. I want to thank you all again for taking the time out of your day to spend it here with us. Today marks the 106th anniversary of the nation's first Armistice Day, that day set aside to commemorate the end of World War I, the war to end all wars. But we certainly know that didn't hold true. It was a war, though, that mobilized 4.3 million Americans, among them, for the first time, some 35,000 American military women. So 106 years later, November 11th is commemorated as a special day of observance of all the women and the men, living and dead, who took up arms in defense of America. And we're proud here to join you and those that are watching us live stream. Thank you for joining us as well for the 28th celebration at the Military Women's Memorial at the entrance to Arlington National Cemetery. Before we begin the formal part of the program, I do want to welcome our keynote speaker and guest artist, Vivian Cavalieri, and also special guest, Navajo Nation Veterans Liaison, Demetria Simms, who is representing Navajo Nation President Dr. Buu Van Nygren. Demetria is also a member of the Color Guard, and retired Army Major General Jan Edmonds, the Foundation Board Chair, and board members Major General Sharon Bannister, United States Air Force, retired, Rear Admiral Kathy Creighton, United States Navy, retired, Brigadier General Allison Solomon, Air National Guard, retired. Also, representatives from the following organizations: Blue Star Mothers of America and National President Karen Stilwell, Women Army Corps Veterans Association, Army Women United and National President Darling Hemmingson, Air Force Security Forces Association, the Eagle Chapter, and Chairman and CEO retired Air Force Lieutenant Colonel Lee Chambers, Northern Virginia Chapter, Military Order of the World Wars and Chapter Commander, retired Army Colonel Vince Ogilvie, Paralyzed Veterans of America, Jacqueline Fitzpatrick, Gold Star Wives of America and National President Nancy Peppers, American Gold Star Mothers and National President Annette Kirk, Vietnam Veterans of America and National Treasurer Dottie Barrickman. And I'm sure I have missed some other representatives of our veteran and military service organizations that are with us today, and I do apologize. Let me know that you're here. Shout it out. Who's here? We're all here. Last year, there were a couple that piped up quickly to let me know that I had left them out. I don't mean to do that. We weren't tracking. It's a distinct honor and pleasure to welcome all of you to today's ceremony, along with the extraordinary servicewomen, past and present, who are participating in the program today. Thank you for being here to honor America's veterans. So it's time for the formal military honors compartment here. To formally get the observance underway, if you're able, please stand for the presentation of the colors by the all-woman veteran Diné Sani Salu Soy, Color Guard of the Navajo Nation, and I'm sure I totally butchered that. Marine veteran Cassandra Morgan, Demetria Simms, and 28 years ago, women veterans from the Navajo Nation led the 14,000 marchers across Memorial Bridge at the Lincoln Memorial to the Military Women's Memorial for the candlelight ceremony as part of our opening day and weekend events. So we're privileged to have them join us for a number of events over the years. Delighted and honored to have them take part here today. The presentation of the colors will be followed by the national anthem and the invocation given by retired Air Force Senior Master Sergeant Carol Ron. Carol was a counterintelligence case officer with the Air Force Office of Special Investigations, serving with the Air Force and Air Force Reserve from 1974 to 1976. She has served as a United Methodist minister for the past 14 years. Thank you, Carol, for providing spiritual guidance to our program today. Present the colors.
I'm a United Methodist pastor. You can be seated. I actually retired in 1996. Otherwise, I would have done a whole heck of a lot in 2 years. But thank you. I know I look like I just retired. I am very happy to be here with you all this morning, or this afternoon. For the occasion, I wore a Navajo beaded United Methodist clerical necklace that was gifted to me by Navajo in Colorado. Thank you for the introduction, and I'm really privileged to be here with so many folks today in this capacity as Reverend Carol Ron. As we begin the celebration here to honor veterans, especially women veterans, I ask you to take a few minutes to be in an attitude of reflection with me this morning. Each of us reference our individual and unique spiritual and higher powers of influence in our lives in different languages. We use different words. We use intonements. We seek visions. And certainly, we reach into our inner selves to find that spirit of strength and wisdom. So I invite you to summon whatever it is that gives you a higher power or a sense of belonging on this great creation. For my tradition, I will invoke the name of the Eternal One. Eternal One, we are gathered here this afternoon to recognize the service and often sacrifices of veterans of the United States of America. Not all of us joined out of patriotism or a call to defend democratic ideals, yet all who served, those who chose the shortest enlistment possible by joining the Army, those who were escaping domestic violence and drug abuse, women of color who realized that they would never be given equal opportunity in their hometowns, and many who wanted education, a job, and adventure that would not be available to them in their civilian lives. All are equal in the spirit of service to others as veterans. We honor their service, our service, regardless of why they raise their hands, the character of their discharge, or what some might view as selfish rather than self-sacrificing motives. The U.S. military has often represented the great melting pot and universality of humankind. Therefore, let us offer solemn petitions now that it continue to be seen in this light, light that shows the way forward, warms our spirits, and cannot be extinguished when we ask for strength and guidance from our higher powers. We especially recognize minority veterans, non-citizen veterans, and veterans of the LGBTQ+ community who often demonstrated and continue to demonstrate courage, leadership, and fortitude beyond the standards set for others. Rumi, the esteemed Muslim poet and theologian, is quoted as saying, not in English and not transcribed, he said that everyone has been made for some particular work, and the desire for that work has been put in every heart. Our work as veterans could have been 3 days, 3 years, or 30 years. Yet it remains a testament to the few who acknowledge this special work and earn the title veteran. Amen and Selah.
Thank you, Carol. Many thanks to the women veterans from the Navajo Color Guard and to Senior Master Sergeant Ron. We are sisters in service. I am Army, she is Air Force, Carol is, and so the digs will continue. Just wait for them. Until somebody outside of the veteran community makes a dig at either of us, and we will stand shoulder to shoulder and fight them. As I noted earlier, the memorial's long and meaningful friendship with the Navajo Nation has been a distinct honor and privilege. For the past 28 years, tribal leaders have participated in memorial events from dedication back in October of 1997 to many veterans events, blessing ceremonies, exhibition openings, and the like. And memorial staff and affiliated members have been warmly welcomed to the Navajo Nation for ceremonies, filming, and more. So today it is particularly heartwarming to continue that relationship, not only with the Color Guard, but with greetings from the Navajo Nation President. Dr. Nygren is the 10th president of the Navajo Nation, assuming the office in January of 2023. Representing Dr. Nygren today is Demetria Simms. Demetria is a former Army airborne and air assault soldier. She was appointed by Dr. Nygren as the Navajo Nation's Veterans Liaison. Please welcome Demetria Simms.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Demetria Simms, and I serve as the Veterans Liaison for the President of the Navajo Nation, President Buu Van Nygren. It is an honor to speak on behalf of the Navajo veterans, especially our women veterans, whose service and strength continue to inspire our nation's leadership. President Nygren has made it clear, supporting women veterans and military women is a priority, not just in recognition, but in real investment and visibility. The Navajo Nation has one of the highest military service rates per capita in the United States. For our people, military service is not recruitment. It is a calling. It is rooted in our warrior tradition, the sacred duty to protect family, land, and community. And throughout our history, Navajo women have answered that call, standing on the same front lines, wearing the same uniforms, and carrying the same courage, often without the same recognition. When these women return home, they don't hang up that responsibility. They continue to serve. As mothers, caregivers, community leaders, and cultural protectors, yet too often they return to communities without broadband for telehealth, without reliable roads for emergency care, or without housing options that fit their service-connected needs. When a Navajo woman veteran cannot access VA benefits because she lives beyond cell signal range, it is not just a connectivity problem, it is a visibility problem. It means the systems built to serve veterans were never fully built to reach her. Our nation's legacy is rightly tied to the heroism of the Navajo Code Talkers, but we also honor the women who have served quietly, who led units, nursed the wounded, built logistics, and came home to raise families and communities. Their service is just as sacred. President Nygren and our administration are committed to changing the conditions that make service invisible by improving infrastructure, healthcare access, emergency response, and veteran housing across Navajo Nation. Because to honor our women veterans is to fulfill the federal trust and moral responsibility that was promised to every Native warrior. Navajo women veterans took an oath to protect this country. They upheld their promise. Now we ask the United States to uphold its promise in return, with the policies that recognize, reach, and resource them where they live. Thank you for giving them space in this room and for helping ensure their service is honored, not just in memory, but in measurable change. Ahiyahat.
I love that she's got a parachutist on her attire. At the memorial's groundbreaking ceremony in June of 1995, 30 years ago, a tradition began of having a servicewoman or a woman veteran from each of the military services speak at our ceremonies. Why? Because with this memorial, we pay tribute individually and collectively to all the women who have or are serving. So who better to speak for them than one of them? Our first speaker today will speak of her service to our country and what this day means to her, is retired Army Captain Crystal Tramack. Oh, wait, Crystal, I got a whole page. Relax. She is a Fairfax, Virginia County native. Crystal enlisted in the Army in 2001 as a medical specialist and received a direct commission into the Army Medical Specialist Corps in 2006. She served in multiple leadership roles throughout her career here, in Germany, and in Korea. Two places it can be really, really cold. Just today, I think we're trying to catch up with Korea or Germany for cold winters. She's the recipient of numerous awards, including the Meritorious Service Medal, Army Commendation. She earned her Jump Wings, Airborne HUA, and the Gold Recruiting Badge with 3-star sapphires. In addition to being a retired Army captain, she's a mom, an athlete, and an advocate for veterans. A disabled veteran herself, she continues to serve this nation as a senior federal civil servant and CEO of Resourcefully Crisis, LLC, an organization dedicated to wellness, professional growth, and empowerment. She's earned a bachelor's degree in human performance and wellness, a master's in physical education and sports administration, and her doctorate in healthcare administration. Please welcome to the podium retired Army Captain Dr. Crystal Tramack.
Wow, I did not expect that, but I will say that as the Reverend shared, I was one of those looking for the shortest enlistment possible, so my plan was to do 4 years. Full transparency, I did have family members who served in the military, most of them being men, my father and grandfather included. However, I initially joined the Army out of boredom. As a former Division II scholarship athlete newly found graduate, I had so much time in my schedule that needed to be filled. I also like not having college debt, and I found that Army enlistment would be the perfect way to do that. It didn't hurt that as the only child, my parents are enablers, and I found that that was the fastest way out, as they would never ever require me to pay any bills and would have let me stay with them forever. The Army allowed me to take on that opportunity to get out of the house and put money in my pocket, a roof over my head, and also pay for continued education. While serving, I encountered some amazing people along the way. As a medic and medical service corps officer, the women leaders that I crossed paths with inspired my continued service and growth. I naturally progressed quickly through the ranks, sought opportunities outside of my comfort zone, leading to successes along the way. One day, while taking my father to the Veterans Affairs in Fayetteville, North Carolina, I had an older male veteran see me in service uniform and stop me to share what seeing me in uniform meant to him and how it made him feel. Also sharing that not long in his years would that have even been possible. I felt honored and pride. Although in command at the time, that encounter put things inside of a new perspective, no longer moving forward as business as usual and shifting my thoughts to those that had knocked down doors before I arrived and the bridges that I was building for others. To be told of the shoulders upon which I stood. Veterans Day recognizes those who came before, after, and served alongside. It is a time to reflect, honor, and keep stories alive. My service means opportunities for my family that I may not otherwise have had. It means advocating and leading others to more, allowing me to develop myself as well as others. It meant taking risks, exposures, and climbing to new heights. Service provided experiences that activated resourcefulness, courage, and resilience, tapping into gifts, talents, and skills that I may not have otherwise recognized. One of them on display for you all here today. Although why I initially served may not have seemed patriotic, why I continued and how I feel on the other side fosters a great sense of pride and gratitude. What I've accomplished to date and all that will come after, without a doubt, is in great part attributed to my service to our nation. To name any one veteran, those would be a disservice to those who made also a difference in my life. Those individuals were peers, subordinates, mentors, and leaders. They collectively made me all the better for serving. Thank you so much.
So like her, I joined the Army for college money and stayed for 37 years because I fell in love with the mission, the people, and the opportunities that just continued to be presented as a result of staying in. But I think we all start our careers, and none of us, I have met very few people that said, yeah, I knew I was going to stay for at least 20 the day they joined. It was for that short few years, and those few years for some turned into much longer, and for others, like my sister, she was injured in basic training and does not even want to consider herself a veteran. Honorably discharged, service-connected, disabled, and she's not a veteran. But I registered her story into our database here at the memorial. So Cheryl, if you're watching, I got your back, girl. Marine Corps veteran Cassandra Morgan is a native of Wild Ruins, Arizona, and now lives in New Mexico. She served for 6 years in the Marine Corps. Jason, you're letting me down. She served for 6 years in the Marine Corps. There you go. We have a Marine Chief Warrant Officer 5 in the house. Do you know how rare that is? But Jason is in there, and I paused purposely. She completed her enlistment as a sergeant, a heavy equipment diesel mechanic. She completed basic training at Parris Island, South Carolina, and specialty training at Camp Lejeune. Her assignments as a Marine took her to Camp Foster, Okinawa, Japan, where she was assigned with the 3rd Landing Support Battalion and later to Camp Pendleton, home of the 1st Maintenance Battalion. She also deployed for Team Spirit 1989, in South Korea, a former joint military operation and exercise between the U.S. and South Korea to test the enhanced readiness and interoperability. Today, she heads, and I'm not going to pronounce it, you'll have to do it for me there, Cassandra, a partnership that serves veterans, their families, and caregivers on the Navajo Nation and works to connect them to resources and opportunities. So please welcome to the podium Marine Corps veteran, Cassandra Morgan.
I know that 250 celebration kind of, Right, okay. Yate she Cassandra Morgan she tohe gleaning shle kilachitni bushichin kiaida she do tobada chanela. That's how I am, a Navajo woman. And so my time in the Marine Corps, wow. My dad is a Marine, Vietnam veteran, and saw many things, that he brought home. And it was a tough, tough growing up, seeing a lot of different things. But the only part I remember seeing, my dad was always, that's the best, they're the best service, and it's the hardest. No, not everybody can do it. So I'm like, oh, okay, all right, But so one day I just decided to make a phone call, and the recruiter's like, I'll be up there tomorrow. So, okay, yeah. So 17 years old, I was in there, and my only goal was to outshoot my dad and to outrank him. Done. But, learning from him and seeing his leadership that he got, and then plus being in the Marine Corps in a not so, how do I put it? It wasn't a regular job. I didn't want admin, didn't want supply, give me what you got, so diesel mechanic. All right. So now I have nails. So, but I enjoyed every minute of it. I did have a lot of good NCOs. They brought me up in a lot of things. At the time, I really wasn't ready to listen. Being young and out there off the reservation for the first time is it's an adventure. But like I said, the leadership that we have, the historical appreciation we have in our traditions and our customs, it's amazing. I've anywhere I go now, all I got to do is say Semper Fi and instant family again, and it's amazing. Always that honor, courage, commit, and that's all I can have. That's all I love. But it's seeing that, see what we can do as a service branch of our service. We're out there, we have that leadership, we talk with people, we're able to get our point across. For me, my mom and dad, I'm trying to live up to their legacy. They're part of President Bush's 1,000 Points of Light. So, trying to come up to that level of trying to help our veterans. It took my dad 30, 40 years to get his VA benefits. And that's because I came home and I asked him, so what do I need to do? Who do I need to see? What door do I need to bang open, And Purple Heart, amazingly, their service program gave me a chance. So that was my first claim right there, was my dad. I thought it'd be my last claim, but 800 claims later. But that shows some of the resources that we're lacking on Navajo. A lot of, I had code talkers, Navajo code talkers, Korean War veterans who never filed for their benefits. And so those, the cultural capacity, the obstacles that are there, the language obstacles, those type of things, I'm trying to get that going and get our kids coming back to have that chance, have that benefits. So those are the things that I'm looking at, is getting those things. They said, how do you do it? The Navajo reservation is the size of the state of West Virginia. Takes one Marine, that's it. So. Yes, but with having awesome mentors, NCOs, our leadership traits, JJ did tie buckle, all that good stuff, we can get it. I can get it done. I have support of all kinds of people I meet, resources, people in this room. It's amazing, and I know it can happen and we can get going, but that started with my time in the Marine Corps. That's where it was, and having me have the confidence, have the leadership, have the can-do attitude to do all this, That's where I get it from. I draw my strength from that 250 years of tradition and getting things done and being the first in the fight. So I want to thank everybody here for inviting me and having the support here. So Semper Fi Marines, happy birthday. Here's another 250 more. Yeah.
Okay, if anybody knows me, I'm sometimes a bit irreverent, and I have to tell you, Marine Cassandra, it's the first time I have heard a Native American say off the reservation and have a totally different, because when I heard somebody was going off the reservation, it means they were doing something a little unruly. You were going off the reservation to become a Marine. Thank you so much. Next, retire. Oh, and yesterday was the 250th birthday of the Marine Corps. On Sunday, yeah, right? For those of you that may not know women Marines, on Sunday I went to visit at Rock Creek Cemetery in Washington, D.C., Opha May Johnson. That's where she is laid to rest. Yeah, I know. She's in our backyard. Well, just a few years ago, Dr. Betty Mosley Brown, a Marine, she learned that she basically had an unmarked grave. So about 7 or 8 years ago, there's a beautiful obelisk there in Rock Creek Cemetery, section W, think women, W, but she and her husband are buried there, and it says Opha May Johnson, first woman Marine, 1918. So she's there, and I went to visit her, and there's a video out on our social media of me visiting and showing that I'm there to give her that. And happy birthday, Ava, my granddaughter. We are an Army family. We are an Army family. And what day was she born on? November 10th. It's not right, I tell you. So let's move on to the Navy. Retired Navy Captain Mary Quigley was born in San Diego, but claims Wisconsin as her place. She served in the Navy and Navy Reserve from 1978 to 2007. As a naval intelligence officer, her assignments took her around the world, Iceland to Spain, Guam, and here in the United States. In Iceland, she served as an Ocean Systems Watch Officer and Intelligence Division Chief, as well as an Anti-Submarine Warfare Staff Duty Officer. I want to figure out what the acronym is that goes with that one. Her numerous assignments with the Defense Intelligence Agency over the years saw her as the Desk and Watch Officer for the Soviet Union, Libyan Task Force, and Latin America, as well as the intelligence analyst for Greece, Turkey, and Cyprus. So there's a connection. Carol, who gave our invocation, she just returned from Turkey. In Guam, she served as the VQ-1, I don't even know what that is, Electronic Surveillance Squadron as the Assistant Intelligence Department Head, and her last assignment was the Military Manpower and Reserve Liaison Officer for the for the Office of the Assistant Secretary of Defense for Command, Control, Communications, and Intelligence. Why do we have such long titles? Today, she's a certified public accountant and the president of Ms. Quig Incorporated Tax and Accounting Services. Honor flights, however, are her passion. She volunteers for all kinds of honor flights, arrivals, and departures at all terminals at Reagan National Airport and has been doing so for over 13 years. According to Captain, there's nothing more satisfying than seeing the veterans coming off the plane and knowing the day is only for them. She's a recipient of numerous awards and decorations, including the Defense Superior Service Award, the Legion of Merit, the Defense Meritorious Service Award. So please welcome to the podium retired Navy Captain Mary Quigley.
Well, good afternoon and happy Veterans Day to all the veterans here, but particularly to the women, because we rock. We rock. My father was Navy. I followed him into the Navy. He only mentioned it once, but I thought, well, that sounds like a challenge, and I like a challenge, so there I went. Was commissioned in 1978. I know that's a long time ago, and it wasn't a great time for women in the military. It was a challenge, but I learned a lot. The Navy taught me a lot of stuff. I learned about submarines, and I did a lot of anti-submarine flying, but they were allowing me to see what could be beyond the civilian world. I was actually on a submarine on the Dallas doing diving trials. They actually let me control the submarine. Not a smart idea. Not terribly, but I did have a senior chief right behind me going, "Not so fast, Lieutenant." So I have a lead foot, you know? They needed a sonar officer on that particular sub, and I wanted to stay because I was qualified to do that, but they would not let me. Now we have women assigned to submarines. I did a tour of duty with 6th Fleet on the Mediterranean, which was on a destroyer tender, so I have surface time also. Couldn't stay on that one, but they did have some women assigned there. I have hundreds of hours in P3s, which is a platform, Navy platform, and EP3s doing anti-submarine warfare and electronic warfare. These are things that now we have women across the fleet in these services, in these disciplines, which is what we always needed. And I will tell you what my father told me when I became an ensign. The most important thing to do is to take care of your troops, because if you take care of them, you will succeed. Sorry, it's emotional. So. And I will close with this. Women are strong, we are intelligent, we are resilient, and we will persevere. Thank you very much.
At one of the early events here at the Military Women's Memorial, one of the ladies that led the Women's Army Corps a long time back, Colonel Mary Halloran, super tiny little lady, saying similar to what the Navy captain just said. She was one of those barely 5 foot tall, and when asked about why she chose to serve, she said, "You don't have to be 6 foot tall to have a brain." And she had a very thick Boston accent as well. So I want to do a little teaser, especially to those that are live streaming with us. Near the end of this event today, we are unveiling a brand new song written and, well, I don't know who wrote it, but performed by a Nashville artist. And it's called Little Green Men. But it's not about the guys. Remember the little green soldiers that we all played with at a time? And now, of course, even in our gift shop, we do sell them, but they're little green girls, not little green men. Our next up is the retired Chief Master Sergeant Tammy Glens, who hails from Minnesota, 25-year veteran of the United States Air Force, enlisting in 1981. Combat veteran, she deployed with an aircraft avionics technician in support of Desert Shield and Desert Storm with the 35th Wing from the George Air Force Base. Where's George Air Force Base? In California. Okay. It happens. They do close them down. Serving at various bases, both stateside and overseas, she was part of the C-17 flight test program at Edwards Air Force Base and provided support for operations Enduring Freedom and Iraqi Freedom. Her career in aircraft maintenance culminated as a Chief Master Sergeant, an E9, the highest enlisted grade in the Air Force. Her capstone assignment was as the C-5 Aircraft Weapons System Manager for Air Mobility Command, responsible for 126 C-5 aircraft. If any of you have seen a C-5, it's massive. And 126 of them. No pressure. Retiring in 2006, she served for another 13 years as an Air Force civilian at the Pentagon with the F-35 Joint Program Office. Her final position was as a foreign military sales logistics manager for the Belgian Air Force's F-35 program. While still doing some consulting, she says she is focusing on being the best Gigi to her 3 grandkids, a world traveler, and a volunteer here at the Military Women's Memorial. And among her many awards and decorations, she is the recipient of multiple meritorious service and Air Force Commendation Medals. Please welcome to the podium retired Chief Master Sergeant Tammy Glens.
So I spent a lot of time on a lot of little note cards, and after hearing all of this, I'm not even going to go there. But I will say that straight off the farm in Minnesota, I joined the military because I failed my interview with Northwest Airlines to be a stewardess. This was 1980, mind you, and back then they looked like Barbie dolls, so I was a little bit too short and maybe a little bit too wide. But my sister said, the Air Force recruiter's at school. Why don't you go talk to him? I think they have airplanes. Yeah, that was a very blonde moment for me, and he saw me coming. And yes, they do have planes, and I was on the flight line with a wrench in my hand before you could say, go Air Force. But I lasted 25 years, so it must have been the right career choice for me. Thank you. I find fixing airplanes was much better than pouring coffee or mixed drinks. So, but now when someone finds out I'm a veteran, they always say, thank you for your service. And I say, you're welcome. But to myself, I'm thinking, no, thank you. Your tax dollars paid my wages for 25 years, right? And then another 13 as a government civilian. And now you're paying for my retirement, so thank you. You paid for me to get military training. You paid for me to get some skills training. You paid for me to get military leadership training, all of which helped me make it to my rank that I made. You paid for my civilian education. I got community college of the Air Force. I used tuition assistance. I used the GI Bill. I did all 3, thanks to the taxpayers. But more importantly, the military gave me an opportunity to travel the world, being stationed at bases that are currently closed. I did George Air Force Base, and then I did Nellis Air Force Base, and then I did Edwards Air Force Base, which I call the Mojave Triangle, because they're all in the desert. And I talked to my career field manager at AFPC, and I said, you have to send me somewhere green, or I'm going home to Minnesota. And he said, you can go to Germany or you can go to England. I said, Germany, please, thank you. So I did a tour over there, and I drug my children along with me on this big adventure. And that's what I most appreciated about, because they learned a lot, they enjoyed the culture, they enjoyed meeting the people, and now all 3 of them are serving in the Air Force. So, yeah, very proud of that. So I'm a proud veteran, a proud female veteran, and I feel like we have a responsibility to continue to serve, even if we're retired. So I do. I volunteer with veterans organizations and with Air Force organizations, and here at the memorial. My favorite is doing the lunches when we have honor flights come in, because we can swap stories with other veterans. So I think now when somebody says, thank you for your service, I'm going to say, no, thank you. It's an honor to serve.
I like that. I like that very much. Because I'm always stumped when there's like, thank you for your service. I'm like, God, I had a great time. What are you telling me thank you for? Okay. Okay, Space Force Guardian. Now, when we opened the doors 25, 28 years ago, we didn't have a Space Force, right? But now we do. So Space Force Guardian retired Senior Master Sergeant Anna Kelly is a native of the Philippines, a 23-year veteran of the United States Air Force and Space Force. She served from 2001 to 2024, transitioning to the Space Force in 2020. Just a quick history lesson for everybody. The Space Force was created in 2019. So right soon after, she jumped on board, switching from Air Force to Space Force. She initially enlisted in the supply management field. She transitioned then to information management early in her career, and over the years, her service included duties in knowledge management at the flight, the squadron, the group, the numbered Air Force. So for Army, this means nothing. I don't know what it means. I know what a joint headquartered level is, though. And recognized leader, she was named Non-Commissioned Officer of the Year on 4 separate occasions and was named the 7th Air Force Staff Lance P. Sejan Leadership Award Senior NCO. She's also a combat veteran, deploying in support of Operations Enduring Freedom, Inherent Resolve, and Freedom Sentinel. And for some of the people listening to this, they didn't even know there were operations with some of those names. Her last assignment was as the senior enlisted leader for a cyberspace squadron at the National Reconnaissance Office in Fort Belvoir. As such, she advised the commander on the health, welfare, morale, mission effectiveness, and proper utilization of the men and women responsible for defensive cyber operations. She continues to serve the Department of the Air Force as a contractor at the Intelligence and Security Associates. She is the recipient of many awards, including the Defense Meritorious Service Medal and the Meritorious Service Medal. Please welcome retired United States Space Force retired Senior Master Sergeant Anna Kelly. Good gracious.
Okay, I'm going to cheat. I have a little notes here. Okay, good afternoon. Thank you for having me here today. It's a privilege to share a few reflections of what Veterans Day means to me. My journey to this moment started 25 years ago when I moved to the United States from the Philippines of March of 2000. Less than a year later, I raised my right hand and joined the United States Air Force. I was a brand new immigrant, but I knew I wanted to give back to this country that already given me so much to my family and me. I was searching for a sense of purpose, and I found it in service. Veterans Day to me is about gratitude. It's about remembering the courage, sacrifices, and strength of those who came before us and those still serving today. As a first-generation service member, I didn't grow up around a lot of military influence, but I found that influence in the mentors I met in uniform. One of them, Chief Master Sergeant Diné, I worked with early in my career. She taught me what it means to lead with humility and to serve with heart. She saw potential in me before I saw it in myself and helped me believe that I belong in the uniform I was wearing. In December of 2020, I had the honor of transferring to the United States Space Force. It was an exciting new chapter, one that allowed me to help shape a new service built on innovation, partnership, and vision for the future. When I retired last year in July of 2024, after more than 23 years in uniform, I did it with full heart, gratitude for the mission, the people, the purpose that shaped my life. What my service means to me is this: it means honoring my roots while embracing the responsibilities of citizenship. It means standing side by side with others who believe in something greater than themselves. It means never forgetting that freedom and opportunity are not free. They are preserved every day by those who serve. To all the veterans, thank you. And to those still serving, you inspire us. Happy Veterans Day.
I have a daughter-in-law that also immigrated from the Philippines and married my son, an Army soldier. And I wasn't sure how she was going to transition when she made it here to the United States. Her grasp of English was minimal. But it's amazing to me when you look at the people that arrive into this country, get their arms around the opportunities and thrive. You know, here we have a young Space Force retiree. You don't look old enough to be retired. who comes to this country understands that it's our mission to give back to the country that has given us so very much. Thank you for continuing to serve.
Immigrants get the job done.
They all get the job done, absolutely. Retired U.S. Coast Guard Commander Jennifer, Jennifer, help me with the last, Reshevsky. Okay, don't make me say it again. I'm just going to use Jennifer from here. She's a native of Washington, D.C., and in 1989, she was a member of the 10th class graduating with women at the U.S. Coast Guard Academy. First assigned to the Coast Guard cutter Mellon, she served as a deck watch officer and anti-submarine warfare officer for 3 years, and then as a Marine inspector at the Marine Inspection Office in New York. Lots of great folks have come out of that Marine Inspection Office in New York. Leaving active duty in 1995 to attend graduate school, she transitioned to the Coast Guard Select Reserve, working as a commercial vessel inspector in New York, Long Island, and Baltimore. Simultaneously, she earned her Master's of Public Health and PhD in Epidemiology from a little school called Yale University School of Medicine. You know, we always find the slackers to come and speak to you. And a Master of Environmental Studies from the Yale School of Environment. While completing her postdoctoral fellowship in cancer epidemiology at the National Cancer Institute, she was recalled onto active duty briefly during Operation Iraqi Freedom, serving at the District 5 Command Center in Portsmouth, Virginia. Today, she is a professor of epidemiology at the Uniformed Services University, where she has served on the faculty since 2005. You know, I am getting older and older because I look at these people and go, how can they have done all of this? And then I look at them. You wait. For more than 20 years, she's taught military students in the fields of occupational and environmental epidemiology. Her research is focused mainly on environmental and occupational determinants of disease in human populations, with an emphasis on toxic exposures relevant to the military population, such as PFAS, or the forever chemicals, pesticides, and other endocrine disruptors, and exposures in disaster response settings, particularly oil spills. Starting in 2006, she worked as a reservist at Coast Guard headquarters in the Directorate of Health, Safety, and Work Life as a resident epidemiologist. It was during this time that she assisted with studying potential adverse effects of natural disaster and oil spill responses on the health of our Coast Guard service members. She retired from the Coast Guard Reserve in 2014 and had her retirement ceremony right here at the Military Women's Memorial. She's the recipient of numerous awards and decorations, including the Commendation Medal from the Coast Guard and the Achievement Medals. Please welcome Dr. Retired Commander Jennifer Reshevsky to the podium.
Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Veterans Day. Happy birthday, U.S. Marines. It's great to be back at the Women's Memorial, a place very near and dear to my heart. And I'm so honored that my mother is here today. She's sitting here in the audience. And I'm just thinking back to like the summer of 1985 when I set off at the age of 17 to the Coast Guard Academy. And it was the first time I ever saw you cry. And I was feeling very homesick too. And I think I cried all the way on the train to Philadelphia. But anyhow, I just wanted to say that I'm going to do something a little bit different today. I'm going to take us back in time quite a ways to World War II. And the veteran that I would like to honor today is my father. Actually, not a woman, but someone who really believed in women and that women could do anything that a man could do. He died a few years ago at the age of 96, and he was a veteran of the Allied Forces Polish Army under General Władysław Anders, known as Anders' Army. Serving alongside his American, British, and other Allied forces, he fought against fascism and totalitarian rule during a very dark period of our world's history. He was involved in communications work and served in the Middle Eastern theater. His father, my grandfather, is also deserving to be honored today as he fought in the Battle of Monte Cassino when Polish Allied troops ultimately broke the Nazi defenses there, a major turning point of the war. The fact that they even served is tremendous in the tremendous effort to secure freedom and security in a world threatened by aggression is remarkable to me. You see, they had been swept up in an event that's hardly known to most people today, the deportation of over 1 million Poles into the Soviet Union. Most people know the date September 1st, 1939, as the Nazi invasion of Poland from the West, but not too many are familiar, however, with the date September 17th, 1939, when Soviet forces invaded Poland from the east. My father and his family, whose village was 8 kilometers from the Soviet border, were visited one cold night in February of 1940 and forcibly taken on an epic 3-week journey by cattle car to the Soviet Arctic North, where they remained in a remote, hard labor camp for the next 18 months. As often happens in war, the tides turned, and when the Soviets joined the Allied forces, my father and his family were released to join the newly formed Anders Army. Though they were half-starved and a motley crew, they were passionate to serve in the fight for freedom. Their story is too long to recount here, but their courage and bravery is something that I can only imagine. It was my dad who really encouraged me, okay, maybe he nudged me, to serve in the Coast Guard. I don't really have a romantic story about the origins of my joining the force. He truly understood the value in joining the military and serving. So perhaps I'm here today because of that encouragement and his prior service to the country, to this country and the world. And though the road I traveled had many challenges, not least of which was being one of the few women at a service academy in the 1980s, I am so proud to have served in such a mighty mission of a small but very mighty service for so many years. When I think back on my time in the Coast Guard, I have to say I was inspired mainly by the extraordinary women I met and worked with along the way, and I would just like to mention a few. My friend and fellow Marine Inspector Captain Kirsten Martin. Kurt was a key founder of and major driving force behind the Coast Guard Women's Leadership Initiative. Her thoughtful, fiercely intelligent, and compassionate style of leadership is exactly what we need in the Coast Guard today and beyond. While I was stationed at Coast Guard headquarters as an epidemiologist in the reserves, I served under 3 exemplary chief medical officers, and that is the term in the Coast Guard for Surgeon General. Admiral Maura Dollymore, Admiral Erica Schwartz, and the inimitable Admiral Dana Thomas. These strong, courageous, and compassionate women always put the people of the Coast Guard first, laser focus on ensuring the highest level of health and well-being of the force. And I felt so proud when I was here just before this program started today, and I saw an exhibit dedicated to Admiral Linda Fagan, who was the first female commandant of the Coast Guard, and indeed the first woman to head any military branch, and that makes me so proud. And she was a real inspiration to me. So, to my favorite Coast Guard veterans and to my father, I honor you today for your selfless service to our country and to humanity worldwide, and I thank all veterans here today and beyond.
A quick aside, a Coast Guard spar, Semper Paratus, always ready. A little lady of World War II came to visit us here in June of 2022, the day after Admiral Fagan was promoted and accepted the position as Commandant of the United States Coast Guard. It was a historic day, June 1st, 2022. Well, June 2nd, 2022 was a very special day here inside this memorial. One of the women that had served in the Coast Guard in World War II was privy to witness the Commandant ceremony the day prior. She came in here with her family to visit and see anything that we had telling about the World War II Coast Guard women, lovingly called the spars. And in there, one of the photos was of her. And it had been here since we opened in 1997. Her daughter leans and she pulls out of a 8.5 by 11 manila envelope a picture that has 12 Coast Guard women of World War II in it. The photo we had was a cutout of only 3 of them. It's the same picture. She got choked up realizing, I've been here in this memorial for 25 plus years. How special is that? And we talked about the importance of the day, and that they now had a 4-star admiral, the first one and only one in the Coast Guard to date, Admiral Linda Fagan. Well, in the corner here in this room, it's not here now, but the Coast Guard bell named for the ship called the Spars because they were paying tribute to the women that had served and now were veterans of World War II. The bell was in here, and this little lady knew that the bell was in here, and she wanted to ring it. There was, unfortunately, that day they had dedicated the Apollo 3 memorial up the hill. That was where Gus Grissom and others, they died on the launch pad. They had dedicated that memorial, and so NASA and other people were all in here having a party. Well, this lady lived in San Diego, and she was going home the next day, and she was going to ring that bell. So I came in the side door, came up to the podium. They were all having their party, and I said, hi, everybody. Phyllis Wilson, I'm the president of the memorial. And I said, we have a World War II veteran that wants to ring this Coast Guard bell. And they looked around, and I said, is it okay if I bring the veteran in? And they said, sure, bring him in. And I said, okay. I looked to the side, they're waiting expectantly, and I said, bring him in. And in she comes. And they treated her, you guys, like the VIP she should have been, right? Such a clear mind, but so excited. And she rang that bell, and it about took our ears out. But it's a true ship's bell. It was meant to make a noise on the seas, right? But she'll never forget that. But she said, in my life, I never thought I would live long enough to imagine a woman would become the commandant of the entire Coast Guard, but she did. So these are what Veterans Days are all about. And I did that specifically setting the scene for World War II and what happened at the end, because not yet had they passed legislation to give women the right to continue to serve. We could only serve for the duration of World War II plus 6 months. Go home, little ladies, and put your aprons back on. So it's my distinct honor now to welcome to the stage our keynote speaker and guest artist, Vivian Cavalieri. A lawyer by profession, she was raised in Manhattan and Venice. Now, Venice is my favorite city, and I was just in New York City yesterday. So I'm like, I don't know. It was cold yesterday. I'll take Venice. And she first set out to be an artist majoring in art history at another little school by the name of Harvard, concluding that she lacked artistic talent because she was unable to paint or draw well. That's like me. I love to sing, but nobody wants to hear me do it, I promise you. She decided to she just decided, I'm not an artist, I'll just go to New York University School of Law. Following graduation, she spent the next 20 years practicing law in Washington, D.C. and New York before returning to her art. She describes herself as a self-taught visual artist focusing on social justice, including the rights and the perceptions of women. She creates her 3-dimensional miniature scenes she calls assemblages in her studio, and I'm not going to say the name of the island. You know where the horses are. That one. We had the good fortune of connecting with Vivian via email when she reached out to tell us how delighted she was to run across our website while she was researching the role of women in World War II for her most recent series, From War to Peace, World War II Opportunity, Postwar Domesticity. Impressed by our mission and virtual exhibit, she was eager to visit, and as they say, the rest is history. So we're delighted to host From War to Peace, World War II Opportunity, Post-War Domesticity, an homage to the women of World War II. The exhibition juxtaposes the critical roles that millions of women played during the war with the post-war expectation of returning to traditional gender roles. Featuring 11 assemblages, each draws the viewer into this World War II women's world of contradictions. You know, from going at Rosie the Riveter and now just hush up and bake a cake. Please welcome Vivian Cavalieri to the podium.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction. It's an extraordinary honor to be standing here today on Veterans Day at the Military Women's Memorial. This day we honor the millions of veterans, men and women, whose courage, diligence, and selflessness have safeguarded our nation and its ideals. This memorial ensures that the service of women in the military is not a footnote, but an integral part of our nation's story and is recognized and remembered with due and equal honor. You've just heard a mention of how World War II transformed women's lives, the doors it opened, and the diminished expectations faced once peace returned. I grew up during a time of such diminished expectations, attending an all-girls school in Manhattan in the 1960s. We were encouraged to work hard, but as we were expected simply to become well-educated wives and mothers, we were never offered any role models who challenged the status quo. So it wasn't until a few years ago, after reading Liza Mundy's book, Code Girls, that I learned about the 11,000 female code breakers who cracked enemy messages during the war. Digging further into the history of women who served, I learned that it wasn't just thousands of women serving as code breakers, but hundreds of thousands serving in every role imaginable, perhaps not directly in combat, but often directly in harm's way. Pilots who tested aircraft, nurses ministering on the front lines, some spending years as prisoners of war. My respect for these women and my sense of injustice at their absence from the history books inspired me to create a series of assemblages titled From War to Peace. Through these 11 assemblages, or shadow boxes, I aim to restore these women to the narrative, to present them as the trailblazers they were, and to highlight their intellect, courage, and a devotion to service so deep that the military determined to retain their talents despite public skepticism. I designed the works with two overall artistic goals. First, to encourage the viewer to approach by creating an attractive, small-scale scene. Most assemblages include a segment of a necklace that I designed during the 10 years that I spent creating jewelry. I wove together amber, semi-precious stones, pearls, shells, and, in memory of my Venetian father, at least one bead of Murano glass. These necklaces had been designed purely as objects of beauty, using them in shadow boxes, often as dividers between service and home, imbued them with meaning. My second artistic goal was to enable viewers to engage with the individual objects presented in the works. That's why I frame using museum glass. Its clarity creates the illusion that there's no barrier between the viewer and the art. Viewers sense that they're part of the scene and can reach out and touch the items. And these items are layered with history and meaning. The assemblages incorporate wartime posters and photographs alongside objects evoking the worlds these women moved between war and home, service and domestic life. I've chosen 4 of the 11 works to illustrate these details and explain some of the symbolism, and you can see them on the screens around you. The first work in the series, Code Girls, honors the 11,000 cryptanalysts mentioned earlier. Like code breaking itself, this piece is a puzzle to be solved. The two crosswords reference recruiters' first question to potential codebreakers. Do you like crossword puzzles? When rearranged, the letters in these two words spell codebreaker. The nautical imagery references the Navy because it was the first branch of the military actively to recruit women as codebreakers. And on the face of the playing cards, included here to represent chance and fate, are the first few numbers of a decrypted message sent by the Japanese in October 1944. As with most of the shadow boxes, the narrative moves from left to right. Here, a nursery scene hints at the post-war push towards domesticity. The ABC blocks contrast with the letters and numbers to the left. But the crib is more than just a symbol of home. In code breaking, a crib is a clue used to solve a cipher. This crib, then, is a reminder that women's abilities didn't disappear simply because the opportunities closed. A second assemblage, Mail Call, centers on the women of the 6888, a largely black battalion who helped sustain troop morale by processing millions of backlogged letters under grueling circumstances. Sustaining morale sounds awfully abstract and even of secondary importance, but for those fighting abroad, these letters from home were lifelines, helping them overcome the fear, loneliness, and the trauma, and reminding the troops for whom and for what they were fighting. The design of Mail Call was inspired by a letter my mother had sent to her brother, who had recently fought in the Battle of the Bulge. Reading her letter, I imagined how her brother must have felt reading it, which underscored for me the importance of connecting the home front to those fighting overseas, and reinforced how vital the mission of the 6888 had been in keeping that connection alive. Accompanying that letter were 2 records of my mother singing an aria, her performance divided, as she explains, into 2 records per Army regulations. Those are the 2 miniature records shown, delivered from the family hearth. But in contrast to Code Girls, with its crib on the right, Mail Call presents a closed-off soda fountain, connecting the story of the women in this battalion to the civil rights movement, a further battle for equality to be faced upon their return. A third assemblage, Fly Girls, honors the Women Air Service Pilots, or WASP, more than 1,000 licensed pilots recruited to take on a remarkable range of missions. They ferried aircraft across the country, tested new planes, including the B-29 Superfortress, and towed targets for simulated strafing missions. Based at Avenger Field in Sweetwater, Texas, they flew collectively over 60 million miles. But this path was not easy. Resented by some families of male pilots sent into combat, the WASP even reportedly faced sabotage, sugar poured into their fuel tanks. Evoking their challenges, the winged figure and candelabra in the piece reference the myth of Icarus, who flew too close to the sun, a metaphor for daring, ambition, and the price of breaking boundaries. Yet the gold tones chosen for this work celebrate the pilot's many and ultimate victories, including the belated granting of military status and veterans benefits in 1977 and the receipt in 2010 of the Congressional Medal of Honor. The last piece I'll mention, The Girl with a Future, was one I hadn't planned on making. At first, my focus was on professions that opened to women during the war, and nursing was already a female-dominated field. But as the series evolved, so did its scope. So when the memorial suggested including a work honoring Army and Navy nurses, I was glad to oblige. And ironically, this piece has become my favorite. It draws from 3 recruiting posters, each striking a distinct tone. On the left, an idealistic image speaks to those on the home front, A radio, like those families gathered around to hear FDR's fireside chats, anchors the scene, while a photograph of one of my father's ration cards peeks out from a flower above. At the center, a fragment of a poster captures the intensity and endurance required of wartime nurses. The nurse's left hand reaches out above the cover of the booklet, "If You Should Be Captured," a nod to the nurses who became prisoners of war. To the right, a poster offering women a career in nursing hangs in the office of a school nurse, bridging service and a civilian career. Overall, this work represents how wartime service gave women not only skills, but confidence, the sense that they could continue working and contributing long after the war ended. The nearly 400,000 women who served in uniform during World War II proved what women could do when given the chance, and they set in motion changes that still resonate today. Their achievements deserve to be remembered, and my hope is that From War to Peace helps to keep their memory alive. Having the series exhibited here at the memorial is a privilege. I'm deeply grateful to all those who worked so hard on the presentation and installation, and to the women whose service transformed a nation, and to all who served and serve today. Thank you.
I'm going completely off script, but I have to tell you a little bit about, it's Veterans Day, and she was just talking about the Cadet Nurse Corps. I received this past week a letter from the son of a woman that served as a cadet nurse in World War II. These women, 125,000 plus of them, answered the call. Many of our nurses had been sent to either the European or the Pacific theaters of war, and we did not have enough nurses here to keep our hospitals open in the States. So the call went out, and young women answered the call. They are the last group of uniformed personnel in World War II to even receive honorary veteran status. When he wrote to me last week, the son of a cadet nurse, it was to let me know that his mother, on November 14th, 3 days from today, will be turning 100 years old. And I'm a registered nurse as well. He asked if we would please just send her a birthday card. Well, we went above and beyond that. She's near Syracuse, New York, and we created a living legend proclamation. And that has been shipped to one of our ambassadors in New York State, as well as a personal card to her, letting her know we have not forgotten. We still are working up on Capitol Hill. There are bills in both houses working to provide all they want if they're still alive. They feel they answered the call and they served and they swore and signed that document, "I will serve for the duration of the war." They didn't know when it would end. They want no benefits except the right to have a flag on their casket when that day comes. And for all of those that are no longer with us, out of 125,000 that kept us going here in the States, a medallion marker on their grave. So I'm going to call you to action. Let your congresspersons know this is important. The bill is out there. It is bipartisan. It is not hard to do. They've waited too long. It shouldn't be that it becomes the descendants of them that get to know that we thank them for their service as veterans. So every Veterans Day, we are honored to have several of our organizations place a wreath during the formal Veterans Day ceremony in honor of all of our nation's veterans. At this time, I will ask the representatives from each to present their wreath. First is the Women's Army Corps Veterans Association, Army Women United. The wreath is placed by National President and Army veteran Darlene Hemmingson, and National Honor Guard Captain, Army veteran Christine Saffel. And the Women's Army Corps was disbanded in 1978, but we love the WACs, and as a matter of fact, I joined after the Army, after WACs was a thing, but I am a proud member of this organization. Next is the Gold Star Wives of America. The wreath is placed by National President Nancy Peppers. Gold Star Wives faithfully joins us every Veterans Day and Memorial Day to place a wreath. The Paralyzed Veterans of America is placing our third wreath. Kathleen Fitzpatrick, president of PVA's Colonial Chapter, has the honor of placing the wreath today. Kathleen, thank you for joining us. Stand fast. Let him get a picture. It's a beautiful wreath, by the way. They're all beautiful. Our fourth wreath is from Vietnam Veterans of America. Is Dottie Barrickman here? There she is. I was looking for you. Placing the wreath is VVA's National Treasurer and an Air Force veteran, Dottie Barrickman. Thank you, Dottie. Our fifth wreath is from the Military Order of the World Wars, Northern Virginia Chapter, and will be placed by Chapter Commander, retired Army Colonel Vince Ogilvie. The Military Order of the World Wars was created in 1919 at the suggestion of General of the Armies John J. Pershing. Thank you, Colonel Ogilvie, for bringing that today. He even has his MOWW tie on. I'm very proud of him, by the way. I am a proud member of his chapter. And I'm sorry because I miss a lot of our meetings because I'm doing this too. But I want... Thank you.
Thank you.
Our sixth wreath to be placed today is the American Gold Star Mothers wreath. Army veteran and president of the American Gold Star Mothers, Annette Kirk, will be placing the wreath. Thank you, Annette. Our seventh wreath to honor America's veterans is from the Military Order of the Purple Heart and the Military Order of the Purple Heart Auxiliary. I can't tighten them up anywhere. They're pretty much dress right dress. Pick a spot. Come on down. Put it right up here. Put it right up here. She's telling me I got the big brass here. That's what she's telling me. Thank you so much for being here. Hey, freeze, freeze. We didn't get all the pictures we want. Our photographer is here. And lastly, we are honored to have members of the Air Force Security Forces Association, Eagle Chapter, place the wreath in today's Veterans Day ceremony. It's placed by chapter members, retired Air Force Lieutenant Colonel Jennifer Aquino Orozco. All right, Marilla, here's my lesson. Get me Wilson, Smiths, and Joneses in the next time. I can pronounce all of those. Air Force Staff Sergeant Jen Warmer. Thank you both, ladies, for bringing this. What a beautiful assortment of colors and wreaths and what they stand for. Lastly, let me call Miss Karen Stillwell, Blue Star Mothers of America National President, to the podium. You have to come circuitously to be making a presentation.
I don't know, Phyllis, if I can top all these beautiful flowers, but on behalf of Blue Star Mothers of America, I want to thank all of the veterans here today and for all those who still continue to serve. Our heartfelt thank you to all of you. And Phyllis, on behalf of Blue Star Mothers and in lieu of flowers, we would like to make a donation so you can continue your wonderful service here.
Thank you so much. That is always a hard call. The wreaths are beautiful. We are not federally funded, so we do take your money gladly. So, while we're here, and I know it's Veterans Day, it's not Memorial Day, but I would ask, would please all Gold Star family members please stand to be recognized? Thank you ever so much. Now, recently I had the pleasure of following a very talented country music artist named Taylor Austin Dye. I don't know if any of you are tracking any of her songs. She's a spunky young gal, and I love listening to some of her stories. Well, she, a month ago, asked some of her women veteran followers on her Facebook page, share me some pictures of you in service. I'm coming out with this song called Little Green Men, and I want to put your picture in the music video. So she has about 500,000 followers on her social media platform, and she said she was going to share and ask them to tune in to the live stream here at the Military Women's Memorial today. But it's exciting to let you know that as we talk about this story, and there is a part where they talk about being in Arlington. So today's a special day for Taylor as she's debuting her newest song, Little Green Men. She thought it was crazy that there are hardly any songs about women in the military, so set about doing something about it. To our absolute delight, Taylor has given us permission to share this debut of Little Green Men, and it is about a woman that falls and is buried at Arlington, so it's important for the I want to let the Gold Star family members know. Here's another one. Take it away.
Little green men in a box of toys, playing pretend with the cul-de-sac boys, scattered all around the kitchen floor, headed off to fight that living room war. Black bandana in a belly crawl to home base down the hall. Stars and stripes in her bright blue eyes, she took that call and took her pride. They signed her up and they took her away. Middle of the summer, 10 weeks long. Trained her up and made the girl army strong. Laced up boots and a slick back blonde with a one-way across the pond. Stars and stripes in her bright blue eyes. She took that call and took her pride. She was ready to fight and ready to die to keep on glory flying high. Just a little girl, little dream back then. Now she's headed off to fight with the little green men. Little green men folding up the flag. The cul-de-sac boys welcomed her back. She paid her dues and she paid the price. She made the ultimate sacrifice. They played taps and sang a hymn and laid her down in Arlington. Stars and stripes in her bright blue eyes. She took that call and took her pride. She was ready to fight and ready to die to keep on glory flying high. Just a little girl, little dream back then. She gave her life with the little green men. Little green men in a box of toys, playing pretend with the cul-de-sac boys.
I know. Isn't she amazing? Yeah. And that's why I wanted to make sure all of our Gold Star family members knew that there was going to be this. And, you know, it brings back very raw emotions for all of us, you know. But thank you to Taylor for taking the time to put this story out there. There are 179 families of our women since 9/11 that don't get to call their daughter, their mom, a veteran. They are now laid to rest somewhere and have been given their all as well. So I feel like she did a really great job of all of that. And the energy here in this room, I don't want to be a downer of it all, but I think the Little Green Men is one of those stories that keeps America mindful. We're willing to do it all. And if we have to give our all, we'll do that too. So I just want to thank you all for taking the time. Don't forget to come see these amazing assemblages, and I can't wait to see all of them. I love about the Cadet Nurse Corps. Reach out to your elected officials. Make sure they co-sponsor this. These women deserve it before they're all gone. And with this, it concludes our program. I want to thank you again, Vivian, for everything. Vivian, where is she? I lost her. Oh, she's being interviewed. There she is. Vivian, thank you so much for the assemblages. And to the Reverend Senior Master Sergeant Ron, our amazing Navajo Nation Women Veteran Color Guard. It's been an honor. So you're going to, where are we doing the refreshments after the fact? Outside and to my left. Thank you so much, because it says in the Vaught Center, but I'm like, I don't think it's in here, because we're in here and I don't see it happening. That's why the script is just I want to thank every veteran, with all veterans, men and women. If you're able to, please stand. Okay, remain standing. I'm going to ask everybody to please rise for the benediction by Reverend Vaughn. You can seat them if you so choose. Their Methodist.
If you're sleeping, I assume you're praying. That's what I would tell all my congregations. I have to do a little pastor's privilege and do a shout out to all of my women veterans neighbors at the Armed Forces Retirement Home here in Northwest Washington. We are now about 10% of the veteran population there, so more room for all of you other ladies. Thank you, enlisted. I know, it's hard to figure out what to call me sometimes. Which hat am I wearing? Just last week they mentioned that I returned from 2 weeks in my beloved Turkey. I'm a Turkish and a Russian linguist for the Air Force and afterwards. And I'm always very confident when I go to Turkey that I know what I'm talking about and can find the bathrooms and things like that. And I went to a hairdresser that I used to go to when we lived there, and I said, I need just a trim. And I was so overconfident in my capabilities that I got a very short haircut. Didn't use Google Translate. And what it reminded me of is that sometimes we need to ask for help. And it can be very hard when we're confident, impressive, talented women. More than just any one of us in here can represent women veterans. We are as diverse as those of us standing on 2 feet, or sometimes 1 foot or no feet. So I forgot to ask for help. And my husband, the retired Marine First Sergeant, will always tell you that I forget to ask for help. My hair will grow back. But the times when we fail to seek help from others, from organizations that are there for veterans, from the VA, from the vet centers, from just civilians that we know who can comfort us, and certainly from whatever you call your higher spiritual power, they will always be there for you. So my benediction and send-off for you today is don't be afraid to ask for help. This is what we can do for ourselves and for others, because there wasn't help for so many women before us. Amen and Selah.